Is it with you? You're right. Oh. Testing.
Almost certainly no concern, but about to say, but you don't let those things go.
No, your own chair, but since I'm standing chair. But if you want, you can actually put yours into the first thing. Actually, you know, it's not bad for you to put it. Right, make it look like PERC's super popular.
All right, 5 past. I think time to start. Welcome to PERC. at IETF 100 in Singapore. Suhas, my co-chair, couldn't make it, so Gonzalo stepped up here and is helping me out. We start by going through the chair slide. Note well, I assume by the end of the week everyone has seen this and like knows what this is about. Milestones, nothing has changed there. Let's say I'm optimistic that we can actually keep these deadlines now. The documents we're working on, the framework and the actual signaling drafts, they expired, but I assume we will get back to them once we have moved the biggest problem, the double, actually forward. Yeah, and tunnel and EKT hopefully followed double. Agenda for today. Richard is going to cover the EKT and double. I will present the one slide on the tunnel. I'm not sure if we can convince Paul to give us an update on the framework, but that's also only one slide. Yeah. Okay. Good. Any agenda, Bash? Doesn't sound so. Okay. The update since IETF 99, I think double, the framework, tunnel, they all got like new revisions, which we're going to talk about today. But we did do working group last call on double and EKT. Unfortunately, not much response. I think that's going to come up in Richard's slides as well. And with that, I think we can start. Richard?
So due to the varied miscellaneous attendance here, there was some confusion about who was going to present these. So Colin made these slides last night, and I've seen them 15 minutes ago or so. So let's see how this goes. Yeah. So double, I've been hacking a little bit on getting this into libsrtp, and that led to some insights about implementability that we talked about at the last IETF meeting. So since...
Oh, sorry, I forgot. Note taker. Who's volunteering to take notes? Sorry, see, my second time as a chair, and like Matt, can you take notes? Thank you. JavaScript. Jonathan, thank you. Yeah. All right, thank you. Sorry. Continue.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so those who think back to the last IETF meeting, the major issue was kind of how we laid out the inner, outer, and OHB components of the double encryption thing. So we rejiggered things to be a little more friendly to the use cases that Sergio and company had in mind. That is still the major outstanding issue here. So we've made some progress in terms of proving out the base transform in some implementation, but we still need to figure out how that implements with the RTX Infect stuff, as Sergio's mailed to the list earlier this week pointed out. So I think Colin has that PR up there explaining how things work. Review on that and comments would be helpful. And then I think I've got an action to work with Sergio to kind of prove some of this out in code and see what it looks like. Other than that, I think we just need to get Nils's review addressed, the comments you sent, and get the document revved. So I think once we get the recovery stuff read and RTX stuff both spec'd and have some confidence that it works, I think this will be pretty much done. I think the base encryption stuff, I think it is pretty solid at this point. It's just the recovery stuff we need to flesh out the last few changes.
And I saw Cullen actually starting making the changes I pointed out in my review. Yeah. Can I ask for more reviewers here in the room once Cullen has like addressed my changes? Who Who would be Jonathan? Okay, thank you. Mo?
No.
Great, thank you.
And Jonathan, since you raised your hand, I might send you a ping to look at some of the libsrtp stuff as well, since I think you've been in there some. Yeah, and I noticed in Git Blame your name next to some EKT stuff as well, so that might be. Yeah. All right, so that's double. Any other comments, questions, thoughts on double? I think we're close to done on this. Next. EKT. So we came out of IETF 99 and did some hacking on this. Yeah, no.
Sorry, Richard. Mosin had one quick thing on back on double. We're fully closed on all of the FEC and RTX issues, and we don't know of anyone having outstanding issues with the solution proposed anymore. So we can go ahead and close the FlexFEX design and not worry that we're going to have anything else to revisit, because we're about to push that to work group last call and progress that.
Oh, you mean
FlexFEC
is about to go to last call?
Yeah, so
good.
We're good.
I think we're good. I haven't heard about any issues. I guess now it's like more to implement it and see if that brings up any issues. But like,
well, I think the PR that was mentioned on the last slide, it does link to FlexFEC. That's only I think 24 hours old or so. So some review on that PR would be good to see if it addresses people's concerns about RTX and FEC. Or
no,
I'm sorry,
that PR is
RTX
actually only regarding red, not
okay.
FlexFEC. FlexFEC has been actually in that draft and should be good.
Good. All right. Great.
Okay.
Thanks.
Clearly, I am not an expert in all of these various recovery technologies. Can't even tell them apart. So EKT has had a little bit more dramatic change. There's this overall flow in EKT where the client and server negotiates. They negotiate a key encryption key, and then they in SRTP the SRTP keys are transmitted under that key encryption key. Actually, sorry, there's 3 steps. You negotiate a cipher that you're going to use for key encipherment. Then one side sends a key encryption key to the other, and then in SRTP, the traffic encryption keys are sent encrypted under the key encryption key. So it's kind of 3 steps. The first step has always been done in a TLS extension because there's no confidentiality concerns with that. The third step is and always has been done in SRTP and tags appended to SRTP packets. The motion here is in terms of where the key encryption key is sent, because that needs to be encrypted under the DTLS, key negotiated by the DTLS handshake, so it needs to happen after the DTLS handshake completes. But we had discussed I think there was some on the list, or at least between me and Ecker and Cullen, about some possibilities about maybe putting this in the application data or versus encrypting it under handshake keys and things like that. Where we ended up with this is that message that transmits the key encryption key from one end to the other, we're going to encode as a DTLS handshake message because there's already stuff in DTLS for how that stuff gets encrypted, and it's an area where there's natural extension points in the DTLS stacks. So I think in the last rev, it had been a new DTLS frame type, which turns out to be a kind of not well-oiled extension point in TLS stacks. Handshake messages are something where there's more evolution, especially in TLS 1.3 and DTLS 1.3 coming up. There's going to need to be some changes in the stacks to do that anyway. And so we ended up with a pattern here that basically looks like a pattern that TLS 1.3 uses for doing key updates post-handshake, but in a way that can kind of be backported to TLS 1.2 so we don't inherit a 1.3 dependency. So anyway, the overall pattern for EKT that's in the document now, you negotiate the cipher in an extension, as we said before. You finish the handshake. So now that you've got transport encryption keys for the TLS layer, then the key distributor sends the key encryption key under that DTLS key to the other side, and then you do the same SRTP dance we're used to. Another clarification that came up here is that DTLS has roles, has client and server roles, much like TLS does, and we're all familiar with how you need to assign those in SDP, et cetera. there's an ambiguity in, well, there was an ambiguity in the last rev as to which side in that, which of those two roles could send a key encryption key with EKT. Thinking through this with Paula and Cullen, it seemed like the simplest thing to us was to nail it down to say that the side that sends the key encryption key for EKT must be the TLS server. So the key in EKT, the key encryption key in EKT is always sent by the TLS server. So that has some implications for the signaling, right? You need to always arrange that when you do the signaling for a PERC conference, you need to always arrange that the key distributor is the TLS server, is the DTLS server in that interaction. But it simplifies a lot of the negotiation. It kind of removes the race condition in terms of who sends the keys to have that restriction. So that's what's in the document now. And with that, I think the open issues we've got are all closed. So I think it would be helpful to have an editorial pass for someone who's, well, maybe not editorial, but kind of a comprehensibility pass, so I get some fresh eyes into someone who hasn't been in this document a whole lot already, to see if it's understandable and implementable by someone who hasn't come to it before. But technically, I think the open issues are all closed, and there are some draft patches. I think I have a draft patch of the last revision for OpenSSL, but there's at least a little bit of work that's starting to be done in terms of getting this interface into some DTLS stacks. And we need to do the libsrtp half at some point as well. Kind of dust off the libsrtp EKT support.
Jonathan, I guess that support is very dusty, so I think it might be rip it out and start up from scratch. But who knows?
Could be.
So, I mean, the one concern I have about the TLS server constraint is until we've done all the mappings to the various protocols, I think we can't necessarily know whether there's some weird corner cases where there might be a problem. Like, I mean, when we do the mapping to SIP, are we going to discover that there are like third-party call control cases where it's ambiguous who's supposed to be the TLS server or something wacky like that?
Possible.
So I mean, I'm feeling a little reluctant to say we definitively know that yet. So, I mean, not that I want to keep EKT open, but it makes me nervous.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, I mean, you could do negotiation of who's going to be the transmitter of who's going to set the key encryption key. You could do something like negotiate that in the extension in the first RTT. I'd have to think about it. But if you've got some ideas for how to keep that flexible, the trouble is if you don't have some negotiation to decide who's the sender, then you get into some potential conflicts in terms of what the key encryption key applies to. Like, I think the reason we have designated senders so that one side can set the key and it can apply to keys going in both directions. Right? If you allow both sides to send, then you have to have some directionality to it, and I think that it's tough. I'm forgetting the details now, but you have to get the directionality right to work with this anyway. So there needs to be a tiebreaker at some layer.
Yeah, no, I think I absolutely agree that it makes sense for only one endpoint to be the key distribution. I think that's sort of inherent to the way our architecture is working, but probably, unless EKT is meant to be broader than just PERC, which maybe it is. But actually, it's interesting. We were sure that there aren't any cases where we need bidirectional key distribution, right?
I'm not aware of any.
Okay. So yes, I mean, I'm just then concerned. I mean, I think I agree that there should probably only be one, but then I'm just tying it to the TLS handshake because I think we know there are cases where that ends up accidentally being backwards. We were in some weird corner cases. So.
Yeah. So that was a question from Sam Weiler, whether the doc is in GitHub. It is in GitHub. The PERC working group has a repo. I think it's github.com/IETF/PERC-WG. And all the documents for the working group are there. So yeah, I think Double and EKT are in pretty good shape. We have some very early draft implementations in libsrtp and some TLS stacks. I think the main action item for Double is to for folks to take a look at the red text, and I think Sergio wants to get a little bit more implementation confidence. So that's the main action on double, and then EKT, like I said, could really use a kind of comprehensibility review.
So can we get any volunteers to read EKT?
Jonathan, since you're familiar with the libsrtp aspects of EKT.
Anyone else? Matt.
Put it in the minutes.
That was a maybe.
All right, that's all I got.
All right, Niels from the floor. Just a quick update on the tunnel, which is going to be like really quick. Next slide. The only change was basically, as we agreed at IETF 99, to remove the editor's note. So that's really the only change in the draft, and that's it.
It's got to be a record. The shortest.
Last one, which we actually didn't have on the agenda, was like Paul now doing the framework. Paul, are you going to present remotely or? Oh no, you would have to first like get to the queue there. I guess. That's my.
Paul, can you get in queue? Can you blame him? He says he did, but just use an empty background.
Okay, so
What
it
does
seems
he have to do to get up there?
it's an empty Pac-Man. So like technical. Oh. Huh. Okay. Karaoke time.
I've got him on, but he's saying he just uses an empty background screen.
So there's a way to join in, like, we don't.
Right, he's there.
Oh, you mean like if he initially joined as like I only want to listen, but then
He's saying he's pushing the Q button.
he says he joined as a participant. So some.
But does he have anything? I mean, he's joined as a participant.
Not as a presenter. Like
The only difference is that if you're a presenter, then other people come into the
Excellent. Fortunately, we have lots of time.
Yes.
I was actually thinking when you were asking for note takes or something.
Hey, Paul.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yeah, can you speak a little louder?
Yeah, sure. The microphone is up all the way. Does it work okay?
Okay.
We can just hear you. Thanks.
Just,
I mean, we give it a try like this.
okay, let me, I'll check the, okay, is that any better?
Eat the mic, say people here in the room.
Yeah, well, it's literally, so it's literally right on my mouth. So I don't think
It's okay
I can
now.
make it any louder.
It's good
Oh,
now.
all right, sure. All right, so if you go to the next slide, I'll present. There's just one slide of material for the framework as well, a little bit longer than the last one. So there were a few editorial corrections I made to the framework document, such as changing the words media distribution device to media distributor. There were a few places that weren't changed before that should have been. I updated some references, in particular RFC 7667, because it used to be a draft, now it's an RFC. I clarified some of the language relating to trust, in particular trust. Trust in the sense of PERC means that you trust an endpoint with media keys. It doesn't have anything to do with whether or not the device is actually functioning as it's supposed to. So I just added some language to clarify that. I also moved and updated some of the text related to key exchange. With the primary objective with that was to make just to clarify procedures. It wasn't intended to change procedures, but I certainly welcome any input on those changes. Also clarify client-server roles when the endpoint communicates with the key distributor, and that's something that was just mentioned a moment ago. If the client's initiating the connection, it's the client, not the server, in the DTLS SRTP exchanges. Clarify that all the conference participants use the same master salt. So that's something that's just an artifact of the way PERC's designed, and that was made clear in the framework document. And also added some text saying that the hop-by-hop key renegotiation, if it's to be done, it's done using section 5.2 of RFC 5764. And I think that's all of the changes in the text. And that's it. That's all the changes.
All right. Any questions? Nobody coming up to the mic. Thank you, Paul.
All right, you're welcome.
All right. That's all what we had for today on the agenda. Pretty quick. Thank you, everyone. For next steps, I guess we're going to wait for like a new version of Double with the changes. Maybe get the reviewers which volunteered here to submit the feedback, and then get out a new version before the London meeting. And we'll see if we can get like another working group last call on that before London or around London. And similar for EKT, I hope if we get like some feedback there, and then it should hopefully go along. All right. Thank you very much, and see you in London.
Has somebody not signed the blue sheet?